Good Monday morning. Let me just throw a link out here real quick. So yes, since the last stream I finished Grandmaster Golem, and I sent the last of the chapters to my editor. So that's, as I told her, I am actually more sad than I thought I was going to be done with that project. You know, I started it without really any emotional attachment to it, and ended up being attached to the characters by the end, which is a good thing, certainly. Certainly better to be writing something that you're emotionally invested in. If you don't care about the thing you're making, why should you expect anybody else to, right? And I switched the switch that was in my space bar. Let me see if I can. Probably not going to get a good picture of it on camera, right? It's an Acco pink switch. And I pulled the switch open, and I really didn't think that I saw any issues. The pins all looked clean. They didn't look bent. The contacts didn't look dirty. But I switched it out with a spare switch that I had, and I need to stop saying switch. And the space bar seems to be working better for me now. Hopefully it stays that way. So what I'm going to be doing this morning is a chapter in the Eldritch Blade series that I'm writing on webnovel. When I was looking into starting writing the Grandmaster Golem book, well, I didn't know that was the title I was going to be doing at the time. I knew I was going to be writing for a publisher that was publishing web fiction on webnovel.com, so I said, you know, I should try to get used to how the site works and try to figure out what people like and experiment. And so I started writing this series. This is essentially the same cover that I use on the series, but with different typography. Publishing under a different name than my actual name because it's pretty different to the books that I tend to write and publish on Amazon, and it's just not good for the algorithm to have very different books all under the same writer's name, because then people buy them and they get confused and angry when they're not reading the same kind of thing as the book they just bought, and then they leave bad reviews. So just having it under a different name is good for everybody involved. For the sake of the process, for anybody else who's interested in doing, you know, indie writing and publishing, I bought this as a stock image on Shutterstock, the background. It's really great that in the last few years, more and more illustrations have started popping up on stock image sites that used to be, you just wouldn't find them. And so this effectively cost me about $10, I think, for the image. I bought a bundle of image credits when they were on sale, and I was actually dumb and I didn't use all my credits before they expired. I should have bought some more knowing that I was going to use them eventually. I just wasted money. And then I got a royalty-free font that's safe for commercial use, and I just slapped it on the cover here in Affinity Photo. And this is the first arc of the web novel. This is up here basically as an option for people to support me. A real quick search shows that you can read pretty much the same content on webnovel.com. The main advantage you get, I guess, by buying the ebook is you get actual formatting. On webnovel, you can't use stuff like italics or bold, and so publishing as an ebook, I have the opportunity to do that. I would have liked to put this on Kindle Unlimited also, but because I have the main text of the chapters up for free, I'm not allowed to do that, which, you know, makes sense. And so I'll be writing the first volume has 26 chapters. I'm up to like 30 something, and I'll be continuing that this morning. And mostly doing this because I kind of neglected updating this while I was writing Grandmaster Golem. Once I have a few chapters published of this as kind of a sorry and thank you to the people who were actively reading this, which was a good number of people, I'm going to be back to writing the second Gunslinger and Samurai book. The first one that I published about a year ago, I think? Yeah, almost exactly a year ago. This was a novella that I had also written just as a fun project, and then I did some very heavy editing to it and published it, and it sold much better than it had any right to as a novella. The sequel that I'm writing is 120,000 words long and is several times longer than this. And it's just, that's very slow going because it's by far the longest project I've ever worked on. It's like twice as long as Grandmaster Golem ended up being. So yeah, working on this morning. And I've got to pull up the old chapter. So yeah, this was I used just the same stock image, the colors just popping a little bit more because it just helps it stand out a bit better on this platform. And I originally had no typography on it at all, but because I didn't want to give people a way to just easily steal the background image without having to pay for it, I put this typography on it. And I don't know, it's at 35 chapters so far, more than 15K views. Unfortunately, I'm not doing it any favors by not doing daily updates. That's what's really encouraged on this platform. So the last chapter here, main character Achilles, it's a very, very explicitly RPG based magic and superpower system. That's what's popular in this platform. We kind of did that with Grandmaster Golem with Duri's potion mixing. And with here, Achilles has a magic sword named Virgil, which I pretty much based it off of Hexblade Warlocks from Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. He's a talking sword. He talks in Achilles' head, and he gave him 1,000 Eldritch Eyes, which he uses as a currency to unlock new class features, with the warning that if you use too many at once, you'll go crazy and turn into a monster and kill everybody. So that's an artificial limitation. I can do whatever I need to for the plot as to why he doesn't just become a super powerful demigod right away. He's pretty powerful at the moment. He's at the frontier at the moment with the ally that he got some chapters ago, Medea. She is a rogue who has a D&D 5th edition sneak attack, basically. And there's just lots of very Dungeons & Dragons and Monster Hunter-ish things in the series. So they also just got a guy named Daganor, who joined the party because I needed like a third voice to have conversations play off of. He's also a warrior like Achilles, so it gives me opportunity to have contrast between how two different warriors are expressing their powers, especially since Achilles has this completely different source of power. His class is warrior, even though he has the sword. And Daganor is a bit of an idiot. He just immediately hit on Medea and thinks that he's, hot stuff. Like the last we have here. When she was younger, when she was being trained to be an Imperial assassin by her mother, who was like the head of Imperial assassin. I don't remember what I gave her title. She was thrown here with a bunch of other kids who were in the Assassin's Academy, basically. The spy school, rather. Spies more than assassins. And they were told they just kind of had to fend for themselves for a period of time in the wilderness where there are these monsters and demons running around, and she had an incredibly traumatic experience where she saw another kid being eaten alive, and she realized that demons weren't just animals. They actively hated humans and enjoyed torturing them to death. And so she got the drop on that demon and tortured it to death. And the fact that she did that more than just seeing this happen to somebody else was what created this trauma in her life. So her eyes grew tighter. It seemed her old memories were haunting her. Achilles put a hand on her shoulder. "We'll be fine," he said. "Nothing out here can kill us now. Not as strong as you've become since then." "Yeah," said Daganor. "I'll protect you, Medea." His absurd confidence seemed to make Medea smile. "Thank you," she said to Achilles. "You're welcome," said Daganor, oblivious and blushing. And yeah, they're going to hunt ghosts, I think. It's been a bit now since I've worked on this story. they come to the frontier where there's this camp at the borderlands between the human territory and the demon territory, which used to be the human territory. But the humans had to retreat quite a long time ago, and they've kind of made a neutrality pact between them, not because the humans have any kind of threat that they offer against the demons, but because the demons like having the humans in a kind of stable society where they're just going to keep reproducing and being more or less treating life as normal, so that the demons can come and rampage and take some humans and livestock every once in a while, and know that they're still going to have a stable, like, supply of people remaining. And they have an agreement to send no military operations into this no man's zone between their two territories, this demilitarized zone, and both sides know that they're both breaking it by sending Black Ops teams in, which, for the sake of the demons, a Black Ops team is just a relatively low powerful demon that's just allowed to do whatever he feels like for a bit, while the Imperial humans are sending like actual teams of adventurers or Imperial knights in to do very precise operations or to gather intelligence. The specific operation. Okay. Do you say you need us to fight ghosts? Please make yourselves comfortable. Commander Peleus is a Knight of the Silver Circle. Achilles grew up in a village with his mother and father. His father used to be an Imperial Knight of the Silver Circle, which was like the top tier of knights, serving the Emperor. And the Silver Circle broke up a cult that had summoned an eldritch, otherworldly entity who was Virgil. And they came to the conclusion that the only way that they could properly seal Virgil away and keep him from turning a mortal into this kind of avatar of chaos and insanity would be for, the noblest and purest hearted among them to make sure that nobody touched it. And that was Achilles' father. Achilles' father died a while ago. Achilles had to draw the sword to protect his village against orcs. Turns out that Virgil isn't really a bad guy. Maybe. We'll see. But he does say, well, yes, my power is very tempting for people, and it can corrupt them and stuff. So, now that you're bonded to me, there's literally no going back. It's not like we can just, we could kill you, I suppose. But otherwise, yeah, we just need to be very careful, make sure that you grow powerful enough that you can wield my power responsibly and not turn into a monster. And so Captain Peleus is the second living member of the Silver Circle we've seen. And I've got to get back to my writing partner real quick. Just a few chapters. Having members of the Silver Circle as Achilles' points of contact gives him people who knew his father, who have a reason to respect him, and who already know something about the sword. And they all have different opinions on what should have been done with the sword. And the first person that they talked to, Sir Azara, he tried to be Achilles' mentor in the sense of like saying, I want to send you to the academy, and I'm gonna pay all your expenses. I'm gonna take care of your mother and sister, and because you're the son of my best friend, and I want to do everything I can for you. And Achilles says, no, I want to forge my own path, but thank you very much. And Sir Azara gives him his father's old shield when he was a Knight of the Silver Circle. So he had to give up his station to go live in the village and try to protect the sword. So Achilles has his father's shield, and he has the sword, and he has at least the emotional and moral support of one of the Knights of the Silver Circle. He's met this second guy, Sir Peleus, who his deal is, I kind of based him off of kind of a stereotype and caricature of a medieval monk Of a certain kind. One moment, I gotta get back to my writing partner. Sir Peleus is full of temptations and longing for power. He is very aware that he has just immensely more power than most other people, and that he could just take advantage of his position and do pretty much whatever he wanted to anybody he wanted, because of just how much social power he has. He could, if there was a merchant who insulted him, he could probably bend his influence to put that guy out of business, for example. And he mentions having done something really terrible when he once gave into this temptation to misuse his power, that he says he knows that he can never make up for it, but he's going to spend the rest of his life trying to do so. As Virgil warns him, he says, that person his heart was full of ambition and lust for power when he held me when they were trying to figure out what to do with me. Don't trust him. And the guy admits it, and he's like, yes, and because I face my weakness and I work every day to overcome it, that is my justification for why you should trust me. And he tells Achilles and Medea to, let's see, my priestly power. He has gained a cleric class in addition to his knight class, essentially. All the members of the Silver Circle have created a custom class for themselves. We haven't. Sir Azara was a sword master. We saw that he wears 4 swords at a time, but we haven't seen him fight yet. Sir Peleus is a priest and a. Did I have another name for him? It's not terribly important. In any event, he's a war priest, so basically a paladin is what he is, with a bit more of a focus on being a cleric. Okay. I'm trying to jog my memory regarding the ghosts because I don't entirely remember, because I was writing Grandmaster Golem for so long. These ghosts, said Sir Peleus, seem to occupy a large area about 20 kilometers from our position. It was once a small town, but is now in ruins. Well, said Medea, what exactly are these ghosts doing? And it was a town before, very long time ago, not like recently. If they possess a monster, that monster becomes far more powerful. Those monsters get glowing pale blue eyes and glowing marks like tattoos on their faces and limbs. And some humans have been found with the same markings on them in the area. All of them were dead. Oh, that was Sir Cassell, who's just a random knight here, who said that. Sir Peleus nodded. My priestly power senses a strange otherworldliness around these poor corpses. They've been touched by power from another dimension, which is meaningful to the story because Virgil is the only creature from another dimension we've seen so far. I actually have no idea what this connection is going to be, which is the kind of the problem why I'm trying to jog my memory, because I've got to come up with this as I go along. We say that ghosts have done these things, but I don't necessarily believe they are undead spirits. Why are you having us deal with this? We're only just barely second level. We only just got here. Wouldn't it be better for people who have experience with them and a lot more power to deal with these ghosts? Now Sir Cassell spoke. We've sent others into the area before, she said. Most of them have survived, but they always come out dazed and with nearly all their memories of the mission gone. The problem is they remember being gone for only a day at most, but at least a week always passes before they return. It is possible, says Sir Peleus, that their perception is warped, but their facial hair, for example, is about the same length when they return as when they leave. I believe there is some manner of dimensional shifting at play here. So anyone you send in, says Medea, is likely to be gone a week. I imagine you can't spare high-ranking people for that long. Precisely, my dear. You two have proved very resourceful, not to mention, well, there's certainly more to both of you than meets the eye. No one has more intelligence about the situation than you, but you would need some orientation to be useful in other missions. Given all these factors, I am confident you are our best choice to send into the anomaly. If you accept the mission, of course. What are the exact goals of the mission? I know we need to stop the ghosts, but is there anything more to it? He withdrew 2 letters from his pocket. In case there are any memory-altering effects from entering the anomaly, these letters contain information to let you know of the details of your mission. Our scholars believe such a dimensional anomaly must have a single magical source. Find the source and destroy it, then return alive. Do this as you see fit. And then they meet their new guy, Daganor, he was mad because he's been trying to get sent on a mission, but he's kind of incompetent, and nobody wants to send him on important missions. And then these 2 people come immediately to the outpost, and they're immediately sent on a mission. And he hears the rumors of this because they had to go to the medical tent first, and so people were talking. And so Medea and Achilles are like, I guess a third person hopefully won't slow us down too much. Might provide a meat shield. If he really insists on trying to prove himself, we might as well give him the chance. And so they do. Okay. All of that. Oh dear. Camera looks very dark. Let me adjust that. It's a very dark day out. It's 43 degrees though, which is nice. I'm gonna have to turn the exposure up. It's gonna probably mess with the frame rate, but it'll look better. Okay. You're not really here to see my face anyway. You're here to see the words, ideally. All right, so they've stepped into the forest at this point. So the first thing I need to do is to describe the forest. I've got to, they've been in a forest. So I need to offer some differentiation between where they just were and this new one. There was a giant wall between the base itself and the demilitarized zone, which, basic inspiration was just purely Game of Thrones, but it's nowhere near as impressive as that kind of wall. It's really big, and it's made of hexagonal diamond plates stuck together with basically a rubber cement, though the point of view character wouldn't know what a rubber cement is, with the goal of it just being a pretty tough fence for basic attacking forces to get through. Though, of course, if demonic forces did attack them, there would be pretty much nothing they can do about it. The demons are the main antagonists as a big opposing faction in the story. All creatures in the story, it's kind of based on a Dungeons and Dragons-ish system. You can get experience points for killing other living creatures, as well as doing different activities like gaining knowledge or practicing at things. If you're a basic human, you're just born as a 0-level human, you lose experience points just constantly as time passes. Your spirit just isn't attuned to holding on to those experience points there, and the main character doesn't know why. He doesn't understand how the system of the world works, which is just the explanation for why somebody like a butcher, who is potentially, depending on what part of the society you're in, is killing the animals before he dresses them, would not gain several levels over the course of his life. Once you have a level, though, you can start accumulating it, and it takes a very long time to gain levels. There are the two friendly races are dwarves and elves, and they basically start as a first level in their race, and then as they gain experience points, if they gain levels, they can either increase in their race, or they can gain job classes, like being a warrior or being a rogue. Demons are special because they gain almost no experience points from killing things, but they just get straight stat boosts when they kill things, which makes them extremely dangerous. They essentially get far more powerful over a given period of time, if they're at war and they survive, than humans will. Even if they're not getting like new powers and abilities in a leveling up in an RPG fashion. Let's see. Different to versus different from is something I always have quite a lot of trouble trying to figure out. And different grammar checkers have different opinions on when they should be used. This is something you may have noticed previously. I can't remember if I explained specifically before the mechanism. I did mention that webnovel does not allow you to use italics unless you are contracted with them. Particularly, I think they give you a different editor to use or something with it, but it's very strange. They don't even give you markdown support in their basic editor. So I was previously using, I think, like an asterisk on either side to denote italics. That's what you do in Markdown, I believe. My editor suggested that I instead use single quotes to denote italics, and so at her recommendation, that's what I've been doing. Fit to the style guide. This is not a story that I'm writing in contract with them, with that publisher, but it feels like sticking to the style guide of people who know what they're doing is probably a good idea. Before they got to the frontier base, Achilles and Medea killed two demons they were rogue demons who were growing a demonic tree that was allowing them to, it was like an engine that was allowing them to turn humans into experience points so that they could actually level up way more quickly than demons usually do. This was like a rebellion kind of thing that they were doing. Not really a rebellion. They were ambitiously ignoring the laws, which in their society govern how powerful you are allowed to grow as a demon. The demon society, basically, they have three demon lords who gained like the maximum power level, essentially, through this racial demon power of boosting your stats by killing stuff. And they didn't want there to be any opportunity for people to be rivals to them, so there are very strict laws as to how much power you're allowed to accrue as a demon. They give you a very good life for a demon if you live in their land, so long as you adhere to their rules. So these two, they called each other brothers. I don't know if they were actually brothers. They were trying to break the rules and basically become, by leveling up, by gaining levels very quickly, according to their scale, they were trying to surpass or at least match the power of the demon lords and take over. Achilles and Medea killed them before they managed to do this because they were not very far along, and Achilles and Medea both have super cool rule-breaking superpowers because that's what you have to have in this genre of web novels. Even at a glance, they seemed wrong. One of the things Achilles does very often is he can't see in the dark as a human, but he can spend an eye to gain dark vision until sunset, maybe, I can't remember, or for 12 hours, something like that. And he can spend another eye to increase its distance. He can spend another eye to make it so that he can I believe, see heat rather than just being able to see things more clearly. He can push it to the extent that he can see things that are invisible. He can boost his armor class, his defense rating, rather. He can do all kinds of stuff, which, as we introduced a couple of chapters ago, increases his corruption synchronization by a certain amount that an author note after the chapter lets you know how close he is. This is a genre that strongly encourages you to have lots of RPG elements with numbers attached so that readers can tell pretty closely how strong the character is getting, or numerically where he's rising. Like, obviously from a creative writing perspective, the characters are going to do what you need them to do, unless you are actually like simulating all of the battles and everything taking place with actual dice rolls, which some people do. The numbers are a little arbitrary. I have been for fights that don't hugely matter, where there's no chance of the protagonist actually like dying if he loses. I've actually been rolling to generate some interesting interactions between mechanics, but I don't do that for everything. My writing partner. Even at a glance, they seemed wrong. So all that to say, I think it would be interesting to tie the demon tree engine thing that the two demon brothers were growing to these trees in the demilitarized zone. Like, they've been influenced by demonic energy. It took Achilles a bit to identify the biggest differences, but even at a glance, they seemed wrong. However, as they moved through underbrush, weapons drawn, Achilles realized the forest reminded him of the demon tree had destroyed with Virgil's arrows. While one of Virgil's basic powers, he takes the form of a sword right now, but he can transform himself into any kind of basic weapon, including a bow and arrow. Now, Achilles can't use most kinds of weapons. As a warrior, he can effectively and quickly learn how to use a few different kinds of weapons if he finds somebody to teach him, but he hasn't had that opportunity. He can also just straight up gain a weapon proficiency by spending a whole bunch of eyes. He did that during the last big fight to be able to use a bow and arrow, which then he used a weapon art. Weapon arts can only be used once per day. Rather, you have a selection of them, and you can only use a weapon art once. If you had 3 weapon arts and you used one, you cannot use the other 2. But he had one that allows him, which just ripped from D&D Ranger, called Horde Breaker. It allows him to make one attack with his wielded weapon against any number of creatures within range. And so he had the idea to use a bow and arrow and to point at a whole bunch of monkeys sitting up in a tree. He used Horde Breaker, and that caused his arrow to split into a ton of different arrows. Most of them missed, and instead hit the demon tree and murdered it. Let's see. Let me see. I'm going to need to go back, I think, and look at some of my details for the tree itself. Table of contents, Lord of Flying Things, Breaking the Black Egg. I think it was Breaking the Black Egg. And I'm, you know, I like to rip just everybody off. I am ripping JoJo's Bizarre Adventure off. They have their ability names named after songs and musicians. The ultimate abilities of characters in my story are named after books. The Butler's from a previous arc, his ultimate ability was called Remains of the Day, and the demon who the second more powerful demon who had the tree, his ability was called Hard-Boiled Wonderland. Anguish. The bark of the giant tree, rivulets of blood down its pure white surface. So the pure white was from the effect of Hard-Boiled Wonderland. It made everything turn like a brilliant white, except for blood specifically and other things that were red. You know, it would have looked amazing if this was, you know, a visual medium. Hopefully it was interesting to read for people who were reading it. Demonic evolution. So the tree... The demon slammed a clawed fist downward. The giant tree. Did I only describe it as a giant tree before now? So the bark seemed almost like skin. He put his hand on the tree bark. It felt warm. The bark was very smooth. There were no branches for many meters. It was 50 meters tall, had a diameter of about 8 meters. Very strange looking bark, almost like snake skin that had been turned into stone. So yeah, it's going to... The bark of these trees, they're going to have fewer branches, perhaps, than similar trees. Okay. So we'll start by saying they were evergreen, as had many in surrounding forest, but their bark was shade paler than most pines and spruces. Let's see how long I can go before I accidentally refer to somebody as Duri instead of Achilles. That bark was less textured. Having an almost snake skin, like, how did I spell snake skin before? No space in the middle, okay. Got to remain consistent. Snakeskin-like appearance. Though it was certainly rougher and darker than the demonic tree had been. Word count. Word 9. Yeah, I've not had any spacebar issues since I changed the switch. So I'm hoping it was just that switch. On the other hand, I'm hoping that I don't have this issue with other switches. And like, it's a very simple bit of hardware. Hopefully I can figure out what was wrong with it. The bark was less textured. I wonder if there was like a bit of like sugar, something that got into it if I, you know, was drinking tea and like coughed directly onto my space bar. And like it's the contacts are sometimes sticking together and sometimes not going together at all. I don't know. This is a story I'm trying to write in a very simple writing style for the audience. Many of the audience, they are not native English speakers. Let me, in fact, go back here. Let me go to create. This is kind of interesting. It gives me some metrics which are not amazing. You know, most people I have not received any reads recently because I've not been publishing chapters, and so I've been gaining no visibility. And it tracks readers who use the app far better than it does readers who use the website. It cannot track reading time on the website, only in the app. And I believe the gender insights are mostly just based around people who use the app. The time zone thing is interesting, I suppose, telling me how often people read it. I've tried publishing chapters all different times of the day to try to normalize some of this data, and it's kind of remained homogenous in this sort of area. What really one of the many things that irritates me about the way the site is designed is you're not able to adjust the time zone of things that are displayed to your local time. It's locked into Beijing time, as that's what the site runs on. But 26% of my readers are from the United States. 52% are other, that are, you know, not listed here, which means they could be anywhere, probably mostly China. India, 4%, Philippines, 3%, UK, 3%, Bangladesh. A lot of South Asian and East Asian readers who are not speaking English as a first language, and if they are learning language like in school, it's probably fairly different to US English. Like if you live in India, and you are gaining an education going to a university, you're probably learning English, but India English is somewhat different than US English. And I would actually love to learn a resource that describes the actual idiosyncrasies of Indian English more than just my perception of it. And I kind of wonder at what point we're going to see some kind of a standard of Indian English as compared to, like, I mean, UK English and US are recognized as different. Okay, I'm letting myself be distracted. I've really got to stop doing that. But yeah, I need to be trying to avoid things that are not relatively simple to parse English for the sake of my audience. There should be fewer branches on the lower portions of these trees compared to most evergreens Achilles had seen. He reached out and touched. Sure enough, there is a hint of warmth. Bark. Simply do it. What time of day is it for them here? Table of contents. So the War Priest Commander. Just as the sun came over the mountain. So this is like early morning, I believe, yeah. So basically they've not had any sleep, right? They got up in the middle of the night because the party from the frontier found them. And they have just been going on, they've been walking since then. I kind of forgot about that. So I'm going to have to address that here. Like, they woke up in the middle of the night after a long battle. They got some medical attention, and now they're immediately going back out on another adventure. Which, you know, in actual D&D terms, that would be, you know, perfectly reasonable. But when they have the opportunity to sleep, they probably should. I'll have to have some kind of explanation for this. Why they decided to go out in the middle of the wilderness where it's dangerous and have to take their next, good night's sleep out there instead of doing it where it's safe. But, I already published the chapter where they already set out, so I can't really retcon at that point. Which Achilles believed was not simply due to the sun. Actually, I'll... Sun had not... not be attributed to the heat of day. Is this a good opportunity for the... Said Achilles to... What was his name? Daganor. Just pardon me one moment. Having an audio video issue at church. I'm on the team for that. We're trying to sort it out. But now it's writing time. So that's what we're doing now. I'm surprised that Achilles did that, or that you were ready to go on an adventure so early in the morning. There weren't even that many people at camp who were awake when you came back. I can understand the commander being up. But you said you're not on any missions. As much as possible. It's the job no one else wants to do. Takes to get a radio. were awake and armed at the time we headed out. But I prefer to think of it as hard work paying off. He's going to be a very bright and enthusiastic person, I think. Achilles was being that a little bit earlier. He still kind of is. He's definitely a positive person. I was receiving basically negative feedback on him being too naive and kind-hearted, which, you know, I'm not going to make him less... I'm not going to make him a bigger jerk just because people want to see Sigma male main characters. But I'm fine with shunting the innocence off a bit to another character, which, you know, we can have I can at least incarnate that in someone being very enthusiastic about their hard work paying off and all this in a world where, you know, the people who are really getting ahead are the ones who have ridiculously stupid magical power cheats that let them skip over some of that hard work, which certainly Achilles has. That's what people like reading on this site. The more hard work a main character has to do, the less likable they are for some reason. I'm definitely not buying into that entirely, but the best way for me to not buy into that entirely is just to have him have a very hard time fighting people a lot more powerful than him. For to think of it as hard work paying. Smile gave way too. I heard people say you're fighting. How do you have the energy to jump right back into a mission on almost no sleep? Lampshading a little bit. 67 words. That's fine. You just have to get used to it. Besides, demons least active during the day. The moon gives them a power boost. I'm making this up as I go along. The moon gives demons a power boost. That's now canon. Let me see, what's my word count? We'll make camp let's see, so it would be about, for them, about probably 6 a.m. right now. Let's see. Okay, and I gotta remember how far away was the site. Was it 50 kilometers? I've been going with metric measurements for this story. I ended up going with American measurements for the other one, but I can't remember metric measurements off the top of my head, so I need to convert them. I'm also just really bad with distances and scale in general. So even if this was in miles, I wouldn't necessarily know how far it is, except just by, dividing by a very slow average 3 miles an hour walking pace, which they're probably not going. Okay. About 20 kilometers. Let's see. So that's about 12.5 miles. They're probably going a bit less than 3 miles an hour if they're trying to be careful through a forest where there's no trail. Once we find it, we'll make camp safe place. Take turns. Okay. Would it be good for Achilles to joke about bonking him on the head to knock him out, or Medea? It doesn't seem like that's something Achilles would joke about. Half the day? It's 5 hours, really. I'm sure you'll feel more tired once we spend hours walking. For a moment, something new. scrape or prick or bite. Achilles swore the very color of the sunlight changed. Carried his. She herself. Seemed to, as great to drown him as effortless. Shifted it from one wiping sweat off on his tunic. Did he have two axes? Did he have a shield? Achilles has a shield, of course. Yeah, he has two axes. Okay. Carried one of his almost wrote dairy there. Realize. Achilles, what he needed to. And special advantages, which shall she had left her previous mission and taken this one up at Sir Azara's command without hardly a hint of emotion. Seemed to be doing everything he could not to complain at his comfort now that he had finally received the opportunity claimed to crave. Had Achilles been permitted to go to the frontier by other and had Achilles not drawn Virgil and received Eldridge Blade's power. Had Achilles awoken class level, would he have turned pretty much like Dagenor? Without much potential, was finding that it sure was much less fun than he always imagined. It's a very real extent to which kid with little potential, there was very real extent which the doom that hung over Achilles' head, knowledge that he might turn into otherworldly monster if he gained guilt. Feel more mature. It was not simply fighting and training and working for his to survive and protect the innocent people who might put in danger if he did not take responsibility for the power he had. Sobered Achilles. Great deal. He only, now that he had pushed that memory out of his mind since it had occurred. There were real monsters in the world. Some were pure evil. Demons, and wish to cause suffering for its own sake. Some were orcs who had no wish to cause, not enjoy suffering, but simply saw humans as animals, not to be considered people. As sources for guarding livestock supplies did not respect. Knowing firsthand that these sorts of monsters stalked the world. Surely Achilles, who had the power to fight them, also had the responsibility to do so. Glanced at Schnorr, who was wincing at a welt which a stinging plant had this person seemed about old as. Did he give his name? I should go back and look. Also, I needed you. Okay. Had this person who seemed about as old as Achilles. Yes, I need to check his name. His age. Someone who appeared to be about his own age. You might be the most reasonable teenage fool to ever walk the planet, said Virgil. Yeah, we haven't seen in this chapter. Virgil talks in his head. Yeah, I don't think he gave his actual age. So we're just going to say he's about his age, which is like 17, I think. Achilles... one second. Okay. If he had not very old succeeded on this mission. For a moment, because he felt bad. Not that he felt bad. Not the best, the wisest decision. Yeah, it should be capitalized because it's a class name. Just how I've been doing here. Okay, 1092. Okay, so this is the perfect length to end a chapter, but I need some kind of a hook. It's been several chapters now since we've had a fight scene, right? Let me see. Okay, novel. Yeah, create. Eldritch Blade. No, stories. There we go. Okay. So chapter 24 was the last time we had, that was the end of the previous fight scene. We have had a few moments of like action-y, not really action, we've had a few moments of intensity since then. The Lord of Flying Things, which was the last chapter, that was, it got pretty body horror-ish. I believe the Demon Lord that we saw, who's the first Demon Lord we see for the very first time in the book. He was sitting on a chair that was made of a whole bunch of pterodactyls stitched together, I think. Something like that. And then we got Medea's description of her training when she was younger, which was, I think, the first demon. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've gone quite a long time without a fight scene. I think we need to have another one. So this needs to be a fight scene, which is not probably directly tied in with the main plot. Like, they're not going to get jumped by a bunch of ghosts. Maybe they should. We said that the ghosts were possessing monsters. So this would be a good opportunity to have a ghost-possessed monster. We need to have an opportunity for Daganor to display his combat skills a bit. We had a bit in a previous chapter where he was buying oils, which are, just ripped off from the sword and shield oils from Monster Hunter, which give you boosts. I guess they're also kind of like debuffs you can put on your weapons in Dark Souls. They just, for a short time, they give you a buff. But we pointed out, they prevent you from using weapon arts if you have the oils on your weapon. They disrupt the connection between your weapon and your class abilities. And so Medea's like, well, I'm a rogue, and I sneak attack things, so it would be ridiculous and stupid for me to put the oils on my knife. Goodness. I did not sleep amazing last night, but it's Monday, so I'm going to blame it on that for, completely baselessly. And Achilles is thinking about how he has used weapon arts to win or save himself, like, all the previous fights, and he's like, I'm going to stick with what I've got, but you know, you do you, Mr. Daganor. And so that's a good differentiating factor at the moment is Daganor uses the buffing oils while the others don't. So let's see, what would be a good thing for them to fight? Let me see. Well, you know, I'll just roll up a Dungeons and Dragons counter and generator. Ooh, a bunch of spiders. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, to a... Sensational warning sparked. Ideally. Surroundings. Eyes glued, pale blue. All right, that'll be a good chapter for this. Now we'll okay, yeah, so we'll go through real quick, check here. Different to this. Word counter 63, we're fine. Did not seem to find it as effortless. Yeah, we're not modifying find sort. Oh, it's modifying it rather than modifying find, really, right? Realize Medea's compared to his own. Achilles did what he seemed to do everything he could. Protect the innocent people who might there were real monsters in this. Whoa. Is that the preferred spelling? Apparently. Yeah, we'll just leave that. Okay, reports, echo check. I took Achilles. Yeah, I'll just... Whoops. Sometimes changing a paragraph like that will leave me with all of the echoes that I just checked. Sometimes it like just breaks all the checking formatting. My drink today is I filled a pitcher with just filtered water and stuck in 3 Celestial Seasonings tea bags. One is just peppermint, or I guess that was Stash. One of peppermint, Celestial Seasonings of, no. I guess there were 3 different brands. The Stash one was the licorice spice. And then there was a Celestial Seasonings like eucalyptus and menthol and not burdock. The thing that people roast and drink instead of coffee. I can't remember now. But that, and then the licorice one, and then that one, and then there was just like a pure peppermint with no sweetener except for just the licorice root. No sugar added. It's very tasty. But their bark was that bark. I'm just gonna have to leave that. I don't have a good other word for bark, I think. But I can call it the tree's skin there. I doubted this. Being up. No one else wants to. Return to the expression. A puzzled. I'm just gonna puzzled look. Achilles added. The trees, the average, this is a bit of a clinical thing. The average size of the trees increased as they continued. And the other free. We'll just say kept a knife in one hand. If she's just keeping it in one hand, I guess it implies. Daganor carried one of his two. It says, I did not seem to find it. After the first hour, he held it. Shifted it from one hand to the other. Particle of effort. Neither complaining nor showing a particle of effort. Yeah, that's fine. That's good repetition for style. Torment for its own sake. Okay, that's good. As far as the close repeats are concerned. Okay, now no ellipses. Going to straight quotes. Going to open a Switchblade sandbox in Google Docs. Oh yeah, gonna throw this in Atticus. Okay. Yeah, two projects here. This one is just the one I put on Amazon. This is the main project that has every chapter. What should we call this one? Strange New Forest. It's perfectly fine. Paste without formatting. Out and touched a trunk, that's fine. Oh yeah, just we can camp, that works fine. Been volunteering for Night Watch. I feel like I'm getting better at not having weird typos in here, you know, assuming that they're actually going to find my typos. Let me just try to ensure that I'm not leaving any at the end of paragraphs, because I have been doing that and it hasn't always been showing them to me. Okay. let's see. All right, so now go to create. New chapter. I'll just call it Strange in the Forest. No need for a. I can do one of these. In trying to strip formatting, been copying and pasting into Notepad, copying, deleting, pasting, to try to get around some very weird idiosyncrasies of a web novel. I don't even know if this step does anything, but it looks good on my end. Okay. Oh yeah, and making sure I don't have any of those. Now the author's note's going to be the trickiest because, here, let's preview it. Author's note's going to be trickiest because I've got to say, hey guys, I'm sorry I didn't publish anything for like a week when the standard of this website is publishing a chapter every day at the slowest. And I think I'm not going to bother writing that part on stream. I think we're going to be done here for the morning. I may come back and do another chapter later on stream. This is how it always goes. I say always. How it's been going is I'll get a couple hours written on the stream, and it feels almost effortless. And then I'll think, I did, 3 chapters, 2 or 3 chapters today, and I just need to get like 1 or 2 more done throughout the rest of the day, in the gajillion hours I have left. And then it just seems like the hardest thing in the world getting back into it later. And I do really think that the accountability of being on the stream is very helpful for this. It seems to keep me from going and checking email, etc. So much. So I think I'm going to try, I don't think I've tried it before, doing multiple streams in one day instead of just doing my initial couple hour sprint. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you for tuning in this morning. I hope this was helpful and or interesting for you, and I'll see you next time.